Dyslexia. 1 in 10 people have dyslexia.
What does dyslexia mean to you?
I would say dyslexia is a learning disorder, most common in children, that affects their ability to read.
Just people who get words mixed up, M and W and P and D, words like letters like that. They just get switched around and stuff.
Dyslexia is just something that makes a few things harder for me than other people.
Just a problem with your brain to make it to where you don't see things, you don't see the right letters for the right words.
Dyslexia is a language-based learning disability that affects the way the brain processes written and spoken language. People who have dyslexia have difficulty reading, pronouncing words, and writing.
Does dyslexia affect you or your family?
Dyslexia affects some of my friends, but it's not I wouldn't say it's a major issue for them.
No, but my friend has dyslexia, but not a very severe one. It's just very small.
Research shows that an equal number of boys and girls are dyslexic. Also, research suggests that about 17% of the population is dyslexic. Dyslexia can occur in people of all backgrounds and intellectual levels.
Did you know there are different kinds of dyslexia?
No, I didn't know there were different kinds.
No, I didn't know that.
Yes.
There are 3 different types of dyslexia: primary dyslexia, secondary dyslexia, and trauma dyslexia.
What is primary dyslexia?
Probably the most basic level, where you just I'm sure there's a more advanced one, but where you just get the letters switched around.
I would say primary dyslexia is the basic, most common form of dyslexia.
I think that primary dyslexia isn't that bad. Maybe you just have minor trouble spelling.
It is where you are diagnosed at a young age and you only mix up a couple words.
Primary dyslexia. Primary dyslexia is defined as the genetic form of dyslexia that is most common. People with primary dyslexia typically struggle with identifying letters and numbers, spelling, reading, math, measurement, time, instructions, and other skill sets performed by the left hemisphere of the brain. Dyslexics are typically right-brained, which is why they struggle with actions that are performed by the left hemisphere of the brain.
What is secondary dyslexia?
I have no clue. A more serious version of primary.
I would say secondary dyslexia is just a different form. Maybe it's they can read but some letters get mixed up or something, or maybe it doesn't look the same. Yeah, maybe it's not as bad.
Maybe it's when you have problems with spelling, reading, and other things like switching numbers up.
It's just where something is messed with your brain.
Secondary dyslexia. Secondary dyslexia is caused by problems that occur during brain development in a fetus that causes impaired neurological abilities in word recognition and spelling, though sometimes people may respond well to phonics. Secondary dyslexia may improve with age.
What is trauma dyslexia?
A very severe case of dyslexia? I honestly have no clue.
I would say trauma dyslexia is a form of dyslexia that comes along with a certain kind of mental trauma a kid has endured, I'm assuming.
I think trauma dyslexia is where it has a major effect on your life and everything you do.
I do not.
Trauma dyslexia. Trauma dyslexia is caused by serious illness or brain injury. Symptoms of dyslexia can develop due to damage to the hearing from continuous flu, cold, or ear infections. When this occurs to a child, it may cause them to not be able to hear sounds and words, phonemes, so they have difficulty with sounding words out, spelling, and learning to read. Older adults can develop trauma dyslexia, which can affect their ability to comprehend language.
What do you think dyslexic people struggle with?
Reading and writing, mostly.
I think they struggle with reading mostly just because, like, I don't know if, like, maybe, like, the letters are switched for them. Like, I know sometimes, like, B's and D's get switched, or, like, the letters are really close together, but that's all I know.
Personally, I deal with dyslexia when I write or text and occasionally read. I wouldn't say I struggle with school because it doesn't really hold me back from being able to do things as well as everyone else. It just makes me focus harder and notice when I make a mistake, like when I misspell a word or mix up numbers.
I just try to deal with it by just reading it 2 times.
Dyslexia can affect reading fluency, reading comprehension, word recognition, spelling and vocabulary, and self-esteem.
Sometimes people with dyslexia can have problems with spoken language, even though they have been exposed to good language models in their homes and school. With these issues, they may find it difficult to express themselves or fully comprehend what others mean when they speak. Dyslexia can also affect a child's social skills by lowering their self-esteem.
And the reason for why dyslexics struggle with reading is because of how a dyslexic brain works. Dyslexics have trouble not with seeing language, but with manipulating it. Dyslexic brains rely more on the right hemisphere rather than the left hemisphere. The left hemisphere controls logic, analysis, mathematics, language, sequencing, writing, and analytical thought. The right hemisphere controls creativity, art, music, imagination, visualization, and feelings. Because of this, when a dyslexic person reads a word, it takes longer for them to process it and can get delayed at the frontal lobe, which is why they read with more difficulty. Do you think you take reading and writing for granted?
Yeah.
I definitely think I do take reading and writing for granted because, like, I know, like, not even dyslexic people, but people, like, who don't have, like, the same, like, education system as us, like, aren't always, like, able to read and write, and I feel like it's, like, something that we take for granted.
As someone with dyslexia, I don't think everyone fully understands that I'm not as good as a speller as them, but I also don't think that people realize that dyslexia doesn't affect level of intelligence. So just because I have dyslexia, it doesn't mean that I'm worse of a student.
Sometimes I just try to deal with it by just reading it 2 times.
Dyslexia myths debunked. Myth: people with dyslexia see things backwards. Fact: dyslexics do not see things backwards because dyslexia is not a visual problem. Research has demonstrated that there is no difference between the letter reversals of young dyslexics and non-dyslexic children. Dyslexia may cause people to reverse certain words because of their confusion when discerning between left and right and their difficulties comprehending their reading. Here are 2 simulations for what it is actually like for someone with dyslexia to read.
Myth: if you perform well in school, you cannot be dyslexic. Fact: some dyslexic people perform very well in school with hard work.
Even though dyslexic people can perform well in school, schools still lower standards for disabled students.
The RCT is an exam given to students with learning disabilities if they fail one of their required exams. This test is made easier, allowing more students to pass. To help the students with learning disabilities succeed in school, the passing rate is lowered. We asked students if they thought dyslexic students should be held to the same standard but receive more help on schoolwork. Here are the results we collected. 92% agreed that dyslexic students should be held to the same standard as other students, but should receive more help with schoolwork. Myth: dyslexic people are not intelligent. Fact: dyslexia and intelligence are not linked. Many successful people are dyslexic,
including like we said before, dyslexics have trouble not with seeing language but manipulating it.
For example,
take the word hat and remove the H. What word would be left? At. This concept can be very difficult for people with dyslexia. Also, dyslexic people can struggle with spelling words phonetically. For example, take the word stick. Rather than spelling the word stick S-T-I-C-K, they may spell the word as it sounds, as S-T-I-K.
Dyslexia!